Welcome back to Whiteboard Wednesday. Mike Cromwell,
Brian DeVault,
and we're here today talking about the next in a series that we've been doing, talking about project management. Obviously, project management is critical to any successful technology project implementation, but more so, especially when it gets complex, multiple locations, complex technology, multiples of technologies. And Brian, your team's been kicking ass on this front. So walking through the tenets, and today we're on tenet number 6, which is risk management, an area where I've seen companies in the past get completely off the rails on a project because they didn't assess the risks early on or mitigate them throughout the process. So walk us through how you and your team approach this.
and we could talk in depth about risk management. There's a lot of different ways and a lot that goes into risk management. We'll kind of keep it high level and talk about task-related risks. So really, when we're managing a smaller project where we've got small groups of tasks and smaller groups of people, this becomes related to each task. So there's tasks. Each task has a dependency. So in a lot of times you have to perform them in order. And if you have a task that is falling behind schedule, then that introduces risk for the tasks that are subsequent, right? And so that's where you have to kind of measure the risk and then add, remove, or adjust resourcing. We talked about resource leveling in episode 4, right? So this is where we would introduce some of that logic. But obviously, sometimes you have to adjust your timeline. Also, when risk is introduced, just so you're meeting expectations of all the stakeholders, and that you can finish on time. And then also, you've got your budget can be in jeopardy. And so, by applying resource leveling, by applying communication, by applying some of our previously discussed tenets of project management, you inherently can reduce the risk associated with not completing on time or not completing on budget or not meeting expectations.
Your team's been knocking the cover off the ball on some very large projects here of late. If you think back over last year, what would you say the top 2 or 3 risks that you see that are common across different businesses that you capture through these plans?
It's typically related to an unrealistic timeline, an unrealistic budget, lack of preparation, lack of documentation, lack of formal process, not getting the proper resources assigned up front. Those can all be examples of things that will ultimately cause a project to fail or operate in a high-risk category.
Your goal is to identify them early and head them off at the pass before they become
That's right.
project jeopardy.
It's block and tackle before you sink or swim.
Block and tackle before you sink or swim. Keep that in mind, folks. That's a good tip. Never heard that before.
There you go.
So learn something new every time I do this. Hopefully you guys are too. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for next week's Whiteboard Wednesday when we talk about a really critical component, which is when you see a risk, communication, right?
That's right.
So stay tuned for more. Thanks for tuning in, folks.